Ladies and gentlemen, knowing your worth is one of the most powerful things you can ever do as a woman. It's not about arrogance, pride, or thinking you're better than anyone else. It's about recognizing that you are valuable just as you are. It's about understanding that your time, your energy, your love, your loyalty, your intelligence, your softness, and your strength, all of that holds weight. It's about realizing that you don't have to shrink yourself, tolerate disrespect, or settle for crumbs when you were meant to sit at the full table. Many women were conditioned to believe that being chosen by someone else validates them, that if someone picks you, you must be worthy. But the truth is, you are already worthy, whether or not anyone ever acknowledges it. Your worth isn't something another person hands you like a gift. It's something you carry within you. And when you really know your worth, you stop settling. You stop accepting less than what you deserve in relationships and friendships, in your work, in the way you treat it, and even in how you treat yourself. Settling doesn't always look like choosing the wrong partner or job. Sometimes settling looks like staying silent when you should speak. Sometimes it's pretending you're okay with things you're not okay with, just to keep the peace. It's ignoring red flags, lowering your standards, or putting yourself last. You do those things not because you don't care, but because somewhere along the way, you forgot what you deserve. You started believing that asking for more made you too much. But the truth is, asking for more isn't a sign of entitlement. It's a sign of self-respect. When you know your worth, you become less available to situations that drain you. You stop entertaining relationships that leave you confused. You no longer beg for clarity, love, or consistency. Instead, you become the kind of woman who doesn't chase, but chooses. You choose peace. You choose honesty. You choose respect. And if something doesn't feel aligned with your values or vision, you walk away, even if it hurts, even if it's hard. Because walking away is not a loss when you're walking back to yourself. This doesn't mean you'll always feel confident or fearless. It means that even in moments of doubt or vulnerability, you don't abandon yourself. You don't stay in places where your soul feels small. You don't stay in love with potential. You don't wait around hoping that someone will see your value. You see it for yourself, and you act accordingly. Knowing your worth also means taking responsibility for your life. It means you stop blaming others for how things turned out and start making different choices. It means you surround yourself with people who uplift you, not drain you. It means you say no when you mean no, and yes only when it's aligned with your highest good. You stop overgiving, over-explaining, and overextending just to be liked. You begin to understand that being loved starts with you loving yourself fiercely and unapologetically. The world will try to convince you that you have to fit into a certain mold to be enough, but when you know your worth, you break the mold. You live life on your terms. You stop trying to earn rest, love, or joy. You embrace them as your birthright. You realize that settling for less doesn't make you more lovable or more accepted. It only makes you lose pieces of yourself. Your worth isn't measured by how much you do for others, how attractive someone finds you, or how many people approve of your choices. Your worth is inherent, unshakable, unchanging. When you know your worth, you walk with a quiet confidence. You become magnetic. You no longer tolerate the bare minimum. You raise your standards, and you hold them, even when it's lonely, even when it's uncomfortable. Because deep down, you know that the right people, the right opportunities, and the right life will never require you to abandon your worth to receive them. Never forget this. You teach the world how to treat you by how you treat yourself. So carry yourself like the woman who knows she's valuable, who refuses to settle, who remembers that she is not for everyone, but she is more than enough for herself. And that, right there, is the essence of power. Setting strong boundaries is one of the most empowering things a woman can do for herself. It's not about building walls or pushing people away. It's about creating a clear and healthy space where your peace, energy, time, and values are respected. Boundaries are not a punishment to others. They are a form of deep self-respect. They communicate to the world how you expect to be treated, and more importantly, how you treat yourself. Many women are taught from an early age to be nice, agreeable, and accommodating. They're praised for being selfless, for putting others first, for keeping the peace, even when it costs them their own self-repair. But the truth is, constantly pleasing others at the expense of your own needs is not kindness. It's self-abandonment. And the more you do it, the more resentment builds. You begin to feel unseen, unheard, and unimportant. Not because others don't value you, but because you haven't yet shown them how to. Strong boundaries are not about saying no to everyone. They're about saying yes to yourself first. When you honor your needs, you show up in your relationships with authenticity, not resentment. You don't pretend to be okay when you're not. You don't force yourself into conversations or commitments that feel draining. You stop over-explaining your choices and start standing firm in them. And slowly, you begin to realize that protecting your peace is more important than pleasing people who never truly cared for your well-being in the first place. Boundaries are not selfish. They are sacred. They allow you to love yourself and others from a place of strength, not obligation. You can be kind and compassionate and still say, this doesn't work for me. You can care for others deeply and still choose to walk away when something no longer feels right. Saying no is not rude. Ignoring red flags is. And when you constantly ignore what doesn't feel right for you just to avoid conflict, you end up in conflict with yourself. Setting boundaries requires courage. It means you might disappoint some people, you might lose friends, you might have difficult conversations, but the cost of not setting boundaries is far greater. You lose yourself, you lose your voice, you lose your clarity, and eventually you begin to believe that being emotionally drained is normal, that being used is love, and that silence means strength. But none of that is true. Real strength lies in knowing when to walk away, when to speak up, and when to protect your energy like your life depends on it. Because it does. You are not here to be available to everyone all the time. You are not here to say yes to every request, reply to every message instantly, or explain your every move. You are allowed to take time for yourself. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to change your mind. And you are certainly allowed to create space from anyone who makes you feel small, unseen, or unsafe. Some people won't respect your boundaries. That doesn't mean you should lower them. It means you should enforce them even more firmly. The people who truly respect you won't be threatened by your boundaries. They'll honor them. And the ones who don't, they were never for you. Let them go with grace and without guilt. Boundaries are not just about saying no to others. They're about saying yes to your mental health, emotional balance, and personal growth. They're about choosing the quality of your life over the comfort of others. And every time you choose yourself, every time you honor your own needs, you grow stronger, wiser, and more aligned with your highest self. You don't need to apologize for protecting your space. You don't need to feel guilty for putting yourself first. And you certainly don't need anyone's permission to live a life that feels good to your soul. You have every right to set standards, to expect respect, and to demand peace. Because at the end of the day, your boundaries are your blueprint for how the world treats you. When you show others that your heart is strong, your mind is clear, and your spirit is not for sale, you shift from being someone who's constantly reacting to life to someone who powerfully directs it. And that shift changes everything. Prioritizing self-development is one of the most transformative decisions a woman can make. It means choosing to invest in yourself consistently, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and intellectually, regardless of what anyone else is doing or thinking. It's not a trend or a temporary phase. It's a lifelong commitment to becoming the best version of yourself, not for validation or attention, but because you know you are worth it. You understand that your growth is your responsibility and no one else can do the inner work for you. Self-development starts with self-awareness. It requires you to be honest with yourself about where you are and where you want to go. It's easy to blame others, circumstances, or your past for where you are in life, but growth begins the moment you take full ownership. You stop pointing fingers and start looking inward. You ask yourself hard questions. What are my patterns? What wounds am I still carrying? What limiting beliefs are holding me back? And instead of running from the answers, you face them with courage. That's where real transformation begins. Not in comfort, but in self-confrontation. This journey isn't always glamorous. It's not just reading self-help books or journaling once in a while. It's choosing healing over avoidance. It's going to therapy, having tough conversations, letting go of toxic attachments, and learning to be alone without feeling lonely. It's admitting when you're wrong, apologizing with sincerity, and forgiving yourself for past mistakes. It's saying, I still have work to do, but I'm not going to give up on myself. A woman who prioritizes self-development doesn't wait for the perfect moment to improve her life. She creates it. She doesn't wait for a relationship to feel complete or for success to feel worthy. She finds joy and purpose in the journey of becoming. She's not chasing perfection, she's chasing growth. And in that process, she begins to uncover her true power. Not the kind that needs applause or validation, but the quiet, unshakable confidence that comes from knowing she is evolving every single day. Investing in yourself means surrounding yourself with people who inspire growth, not chaos. You start choosing conversations that challenge your thinking, environments that feed your spirit, and habits that build your discipline. You stop wasting time on gossip, drama, or shallow validation. You seek depth. You choose people and experiences that elevate your perspective. You understand that who you spend time with directly impacts who you become. So you become intentional about your circle. Self-development also means learning how to manage your mind. Your thoughts create your reality. If you're constantly feeding your mind negativity, fear, or comparison, your life will reflect that. But when you learn to control your mindset, to speak life into yourself, to affirm your potential, everything shifts. You realize you are not your thoughts. You are the observer of them, and you have the power to change the narrative. This journey also involves setting goals and showing up for them with discipline. It's not about achieving everything overnight, but about becoming consistent with small daily actions. Whether it's reading for 20 minutes, exercising, meditating, learning a new skill, or working on your career, you show up, even when you're tired, even when it's hard, because you've made a promise to yourself, and keeping that promise becomes a non-negotiable. A woman who prioritizes self-development knows that her value is not in how she looks, what she owns, or who she's dating. Her value is in how deeply she knows herself, how boldly she speaks her truth, how gracefully she handles challenges, how committed she is to healing, growing, and rising, again and again. She understands that no external success can replace internal peace, and that a woman with a strong sense of self is unstoppable. This commitment also makes you magnetic. People are drawn to your energy, not because you're perfect, but because you're real, grounded, and evolving. You're no longer seeking external approval because you've already approved of yourself. You're no longer afraid of change because you've learned to adapt and thrive in it. You become the kind of woman who inspires others to grow just by being herself. In a world that constantly tries to distract and define you, choosing to focus on your self-development is a revolutionary act. It's how you reclaim your power. It's how you build a life that's aligned with your purpose. And most of all, it's how you honor the woman you were, the woman you are, and the woman you're still becoming. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to stay committed to the process. Because when you choose growth over comfort, you don't just change your life, you elevate it forever. Cultivating emotional intelligence is one of the most vital steps a woman can take toward personal power, inner peace, and healthy relationships. You reach appropriate balance between your emotions and managing them wisely, and responding to the world around you with maturity and grace. It's a quiet strength that doesn't shout or seek attention, but it speaks volumes in how you carry yourself through life's challenges and interactions. Many people are intelligent on paper, they hold degrees, they speak well, they work hard, but emotional intelligence is what sets a high-value woman apart. It shows in how she handles stress, how she navigates conflict, how she listens without interrupting, and how she stays calm even when others are losing control. She doesn't let her emotions dictate her actions. She feels them, honors them, and then chooses her response consciously. That is real power. Emotional intelligence begins with self-awareness. You can't manage what you don't recognize. A woman who is emotionally intelligent takes the time to understand her emotional triggers. She doesn't just explode and then say, that's just how I am. She reflects on why she felt a certain way and what it taught her. She asks deeper questions. Why did that hurt me? Why did that make me angry? What's underneath this feeling? She understands that emotions are messengers, not enemies, and she uses them as a guide, not a weapon. But emotional intelligence isn't just about managing your own emotions. It's also about being aware of the emotions of others. It's about empathy. A high-value woman doesn't dominate conversations or invalidate others. She listens, really listens, and she knows how to make others feel seen and heard. She understands that everyone is carrying invisible battles and that kindness goes further than criticism. She doesn't take everything personally because she knows that how others behave is a reflection of their own emotional state, not a measurement of her worth. This emotional awareness allows her to create deeper, more meaningful connections. She knows how to communicate in a way that doesn't attack or blame, but rather invites understanding. She can say, I feel hurt when this happens, instead of, you always do this. She speaks from a place of clarity, not chaos. She doesn't need to win arguments. She wants to build bridges. And if someone continues to disrespect her, despite her calm and conscious communication, she knows when to walk away without guilt. Emotionally intelligent women don't live in denial. They don't suppress what they feel to maintain an image. They face their feelings with honesty. If they're heartbroken, they don't pretend to be unaffected. If they're anxious, they don't bury it under distractions. They sit with their emotions and process them. They ask for help when needed. They journal. They reflect. They do the inner work because they understand that unprocessed emotions don't disappear. They just show up in unhealthy ways later on. Developing emotional intelligence also helps a woman make better decisions. Instead of reacting impulsively, she pauses, she breathes, she considers the bigger picture. She doesn't let temporary feelings ruin long-term relationships or opportunities. She knows that just because something feels urgent doesn't mean it is. This ability to pause and respond rather than react is a superpower in both personal and professional life. A high-value woman with emotional intelligence also knows how to regulate herself in difficult situations. She doesn't yell to be heard or cry to manipulate. She understands the difference between vulnerability and emotional volatility. She can express pain without creating drama. She can disagree. She understands that emotional control doesn't mean emotional suppression. It means staying grounded in the storm. And most importantly, she extends emotional grace, not just to others, but to herself. She doesn't shame herself for being human. She doesn't beat herself up for feeling sad, scared, or insecure. Instead, she meets those parts of herself with compassion. She knows that emotional growth is a process, and she doesn't have to be perfect to be powerful. In a world that often glorifies external success and overlooks inner wisdom, emotional intelligence is the quiet force that holds everything together. It helps you lead with clarity, love without losing yourself, and live with a sense of peace that no external validation can provide. It's not something you master overnight, but something you build with daily intention, by observing, reflecting, adjusting, and growing. The more emotionally intelligent you become, the more control you gain over your life. Not because you control everything around you, but because you learn to master what's within you. And once you do that, there is truly nothing you cannot rise above. Being independent and purpose-driven is about more than just taking care of yourself financially or making your own decisions. It's about owning your life fully, living with intention, and building something meaningful that reflects who you are at your core. A high-value woman doesn't wait for someone to rescue her, validate her, or give her direction. She understands that her power comes from within, and she's not afraid to walk alone if it means staying true to herself. Independence is a mindset before it is a lifestyle. It starts with the belief that you are capable of creating your own happiness and stability. You don't depend on anyone else to complete you because you already feel whole within yourself. You don't look to a partner, a job, or society's approval to define your worth. You define it. You make decisions not out of fear or desperation, but from a place of self-respect and vision. Being independent doesn't mean you don't need anyone. It means you choose relationships that add value to your life, not ones you cling to out of loneliness or insecurity. You're not afraid to walk away from anything that costs your peace or limits your growth. You love deeply, but not blindly. You can care for someone and still maintain your own identity. You give, but you also know when to protect your energy. You help others, but not at the expense of your own well-being. Purpose is what fuels this independence. It gives your life depth, direction, and a sense of fulfillment that no material thing or relationship can replace. A woman who is purpose-driven wakes up each day knowing she's working towards something bigger than herself. Whether her purpose lies in her career, her art, her activism, her healing, or her family, she lives with intention. She doesn't drift through life waiting for something to happen. She creates her own path, step by step. Living with purpose means knowing your why. Why do you do what you do? Why do you want to grow? Why do you keep going even when it's hard? A purpose-driven woman has asked herself these questions, and the answers guide her actions. She doesn't follow the crowd. She doesn't settle for a life that looks good on the outside but feels empty on the inside. She is brave enough to walk a path that's uniquely hers, even if it's unpopular or misunderstood. This sense of purpose gives her resilience. When life knocks her down, she doesn't stay down for long. She's not just surviving, she's building something, and that vision keeps her focused. She uses setbacks as stepping stones, failures as lessons, and critics as fuel. She doesn't let fear stop her because she knows she wasn't born to play small. Her dreams are not just about success, they are about impact. She wants to make a difference, leave a legacy, and inspire others simply by living authentically. Being independent and purpose-driven also means learning how to lead yourself. You don't wait for motivation, you create discipline. You don't rely on others to tell you what to do. You trust your own inner compass. You are committed to self-growth because you understand that the stronger and wiser you become, the more powerfully you can show up in the world. You invest in your mind, your health, your skills, and your spiritual peace. You are your own greatest project. It's not always easy to live this way. There will be moments when you feel misunderstood, isolated, or tired. But the beauty of being independent and purpose-driven is that even when no one claps for you, even when no one sees your effort, you keep going. Because you're not doing it for applause. You're doing it because it's who you are. Because you know that your life is your message. And that message becomes louder, stronger, and more inspiring the more aligned you are with your purpose. When a woman knows who she is, what she stands for, and where she's headed, she becomes unshakable. She no longer waits for opportunities, she creates them. She doesn't look for someone to lead her, she leads herself. And the most beautiful part, she lifts others as she rises. Because true independence is not about isolation, it's about empowerment. And true purpose is not just about personal success, it's about collective impact. So, be independent, think for yourself, build your dreams, walk your path, and above all, live with purpose. Because when you do, you don't just become a high-value woman, you become a force of nature. Embodying confidence and feminine power is not about being loud, aggressive, or trying to prove something to the world. It's about owning who you are, your strengths, your softness, your intuition, and your presence. It's the way you walk into a room without needing to dominate it, but still manage to shift the energy just by being fully grounded in yourself. Confidence is not arrogance. It is quiet certainty. And feminine power is not weakness. It is an unstoppable force wrapped in grace. Confidence begins with self-acceptance. It's knowing that you are not perfect, but you are worthy. That you have flaws, but you still belong. A confident woman does not need to seek constant validation because she has already validated herself. She doesn't rely on compliments to feel beautiful or approval to feel valuable. She knows who she is. She embraces her body, her mind, her emotions, and her journey. She doesn't compare herself to others because she's too focused on becoming the best version of herself. Feminine power, on the other hand, is often misunderstood in a world that celebrates hustle, hardness, and competition. But feminine power is not about competing with masculine energy. It's about complementing it. It's about leading with empathy, creating with intuition, and nurturing with wisdom. A woman in her feminine power doesn't apologize for being emotional, sensitive, or nurturing. She doesn't hide her softness out of fear that she'll be seen as weak. She understands that her sensitivity is her strength, and her ability to feel deeply is a gift, not a burden. Together, confidence and feminine power create a magnetic energy. People are drawn to a woman who knows her worth but doesn't have to announce it. A woman who can be both fierce and soft, who can stand firm in her boundaries yet lead with kindness, who can wear heels or go barefoot and still feel like a queen. Her energy speaks before her words do. She doesn't shrink herself to fit into spaces. She expands and allows others to do the same. Embodying confidence means taking up space without guilt. And that's what makes her real. It means speaking up when you have something to say, asking for what you need, and walking away from what doesn't align. It means trusting your intuition, even when others doubt it. It means being unapologetically yourself in a world that tries to mold you into something more palatable. It's saying, this is who I am, without needing anyone's permission to be it. Feminine power shows in the way a woman carries herself. It's in her ability to listen deeply, speak with intention, and love without losing herself. It's in her ability to create beauty, offer comfort, and still stand firm when her values are tested. It's in the way she can hold space for others while protecting her own energy. She doesn't have to be the loudest voice in the room. Her energy speaks for her. She doesn't seek to control others. She simply controls herself. This kind of power doesn't come from the outside. It's not given, it's claimed. It's built through self-discovery, healing, growth, and unlearning the lies that told you you had to choose between being powerful and being feminine. You can be both. You can be soft and unshakable, gentle and fierce, loving and independent. The modern woman is no longer confined by outdated stereotypes. She is allowed to define herself in her own terms and live in her full expression without shame. Confidence also comes from keeping the promises you make to yourself. It's built every time you show up for your goals, every time you choose discipline over comfort, every time you honor your boundaries. It grows when you take care of your body, feed your mind, and protect your peace. You begin to trust yourself. And when you trust yourself, you stop doubting your voice, your decisions, and your place in the world. A confident and feminine woman doesn't need to prove anything. She doesn't need to fight for attention or chase love. She attracts what aligns with her because she's already aligned within. Her presence alone commands respect, not because she demands it, but because she embodies it. She radiates strength, softness, self-respect, and self-love. She is magnetic, not because she tries to be, but because she is fully herself. So embody your confidence, stand tall in your truth, embrace your feminine essence, let your emotions guide you without controlling you. Let your heart stay open, but your standards stay high. When you embody both your confidence and your feminine power, you don't just walk through life, you flow through it with elegance, resilience, and undeniable presence. And in doing so, you give others permission to do the same.